So I've heard so many reasons why the WNBA players shouldn't get more money, and right now we're going through a collective bargaining agreement for 2025 because the current one expires at the end of this year. So I've heard all the reasons why they don't deserve the money, and in today's video I'm going to tell you every reason why they deserve more money, and it's going to be the strongest case for WNBA players you've ever seen. So I may not be able to convince you, but this is going to be the best, strongest case that you'll ever see. So let's get into this video right now. I think we should start over at the stat board naturally or salary board, because a lot of people say that certain WNBA players, they don't move the needle enough. That's why they don't get paid enough. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to two NBA salaries and one WNBA salary. So the first NBA player is Scottie Barnes. I want to ask you guys, how much does he move the needle for the NBA? If Scottie Barnes dropped off and you never, let's just say he retired, how much would that affect NBA viewership? So I'll leave that question to you. Does that affect the salary? Nope, because this guy is making $38 million a year. You can argue, well, he deserves it. Okay. But the WNBA players, they deserve their salary too. So $38 million a year, that's a good penny for someone that doesn't really move the needle. If you haven't figured it out, Scottie Barnes, he doesn't move the needle for the NBA. Like, the NBA would be just fine if he retired. No offense, nothing against Scottie Barnes, he's a good player, but come on, let's be real. Okay, next player is Duncan Robinson. Does he move the NBA? Does he move the needle for the NBA? Would the NBA be the same if Duncan Robinson retired today? The same answer. Nope. The NBA would be the same. The NBA would be fine without Duncan Robinson. No offense to Duncan Robinson, good player. He's making $16.8 million a year. You can argue he deserves it. Like I said, WNBA players, they deserve their share too. Let's look at the most popular WNBA player in the history of the league. Caitlin You can argue that she deserves her share, right? Of course she does. And I get it. She's making deals, off the court too. But so are a lot of these NBA players. They're making deals off the court as well. So, Caitlin Clark's salary is, pay attention to the last digit or the last letter. It's K. It's not M. You can argue she deserves $78 million, but we're not getting that conversation right now. She's making $78,000 a year. That's the most popular WNBA player. If she drops off, let's say she retires, the WNBA is screwed. You know what I mean? They're going back to where they were before. Basically, they're going back to the small arenas when they play the Fever. They're going back to the regular viewership. Though you can make an argument that they are growing. They're going to see Juju. They're going to see Paige Beckers. They're going to see this new wave of Angel Reese's and the new wave of players. Their popularity is growing, but the WNBA players, they deserve their cut. That's all I have to say. Is if you look at the full WNBA salary total combined, how much do you think they're actually making a year? If you combine all the WNBA salaries, how much do you think they're making a year? Not as much as Scottie Barnes, not as much as Duncan Robinson. They're making about $16.4 million. So you can argue, yeah, they're making about as much as Duncan Robinson, but it's a little ridiculous. Can we at least get to $2 million for the player max? So let's just say we get to $2 million for the player max. The best players in the league are making $2 million. I don't think that's much to ask for. Let's just say the total WNBA salary would get up to $50 million, right? I think that would still be reasonable. LeBron James could, LeBron James makes that in, easily. LeBron James makes that in a year. What's his name for Phoenix? Makes that in a year. He makes more than that in a year. So I don't know. It's just so easy to jump to conclusions. But when you look at these perspectives here, it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to realize that WNBA players are underpaid. I just want to ask you this question. Have you ever known how raises work? Have you ever wondered how, asking for a raise works? Have you ever asked for a raise in your current job? And I just want to know why it's such a problem when WNBA players, they work hard just like us. Why isn't it fair that they should get the same benefits? Why isn't it fair that they get such grief for asking for a raise? When you ask for a raise, you don't really know how your company's doing. You don't really care how your company's doing. You just want a raise, and clearly what we're seeing in the WNBA is there's clearly an increase. So one thing that I currently hear a lot is that the WNBA, it's been around since 1997. Okay, so what? Have you seen Caitlin Have you seen her come into the league? Have you seen a different trajectory since she joined the WNBA? So really that's irrelevant. The fact that they've been around for that long, haven't really created a profit yet. Look at, like, this is clearly a good business venture. It's clearly a good business because you know the way businesses work, right? Businesses, they start off as a really good idea and they're always in the negative for a long period of time. So like the number one point I wanted to make is that businesses take time to grow. And yes, you know, they've been around for a long time. They haven't created they've always owed money every single time that the year was over. But at the same time, you have to keep in mind that we're in a different era now. You know, the WNBA is growing. You have new players coming in. You have Caitlin Clark is obviously the biggest main catalyst, but you also have Paige Beckers. You also have Juju Watkins coming in. You have this new wave of WNBA marketing from college. You know, you have these college stars coming in, and people are paying attention. Oh my gosh. You know, there's different rivalries. You got Caitlin Clark versus Paige Beckers. You got Caitlin Clark versus Angela Reese. You got these players that I'm watching the full games, and I'm actually very entertained. I'm watching like the Asia Wilsons. I'm watching a lot of, you know, the star players that have been here for a long time, and they're great. You know, like it's actually, like, for me as a fan, I'm actually watching a lot of different players. Like, and it started with the Fever. I admit it started with Caitlin Clark and the Fever. She's playing all these other teams, and then I'm like, oh wow. I remember my first experience watching the New York Liberty was Fever versus the Liberty, and I'm looking at Breanna Stewart. I'm like, whoa, this girl's balling. Who is this girl? And then I find out she's a 2-time league MVP. You know, so it starts with Caitlin Clark, but we're realizing that this league, there's so much untapped. There's so much, like, I'm telling you, like, this league is very entertaining. So one thing I hear all the time is, wow, the WNBA lost $40 million in their profits. You know, $40 million. They were down $40 million with everything going on. And let's go back to the stat board. Just remember that we're a Scotty Barnes away from breaking even. Scotty Barnes made $38 million last year. $40 million really isn't anything. $40 million really isn't that much. LeBron James can pay that himself. Here you go. The league is taken care of. Devin Booker can pay that and still have like $20 million left over because I think he's making $70 million a year now or something like that. I mean, that's nothing. $40 million is nothing compared to, you know, for the NBA. So basically, you know, at the end of the day, we're a Scotty Barnes away. I'm actually encouraged to hear that. Actually, like that's really not that much. But just remember that, you know, it's a business. The WNBA is growing. The popularity is growing. I don't care about the league started in '97 because we're in a new trajectory, a completely new trajectory where, and remember, the WNBA plays during football season. You know, football season's right around the corner. The WNBA is not going to end for a little while. The playoffs aren't around for a good while, so the WNBA has always been competing with the NFL, and so, you know, for that, I mean, that's really not that bad. There's a reason why NBA doesn't compete with the NFL because the NBA would be basically the WNBA if you make it compete with. You can argue that, right? I mean, if you make it compete with the NFL, which the WNBA is doing, and they're actually doing a decent job now, so it's pretty interesting. I think there's a lot of growth here. You do also have to remember that a reason why the NBA is so popular is because of the teams. You know, the teams have been around for a long time, and the Celtics have a name by themselves. It doesn't matter who. I can promise you, it doesn't matter what players are playing for the most part. The Lakers are the Lakers. You know, the Lakers have a huge brand. People are Lakers fans. They're going to see the Lakers. They're not really going to see certain players. The WNBA, people are going to see certain players. That's pretty much all they have. If you give it time, eventually the teams are going to grow, and people are going to actually go to, you know, people are actually going to go to see the Fever. People are actually going to go to see the Sparks and, you know, these different teams. You know, the Aces, and, you know, they're actually, you know, the teams will eventually become a name brand of themselves, but right now the WNBA is only relying on the players to market themselves. It's not like the NBA where like any rookie can step into like the Grizzlies franchise and they're popular because the Grizzlies have such a huge fan base. These teams have such huge fan bases where it doesn't matter. I can promise you, it really doesn't matter who's playing. Now, obviously, you get the stars like Steph Curry, LeBron James. It doesn't matter where they're going. It doesn't matter where they go. People are going to follow whoever. You know what I mean? But it's a little different. The WNBA is profiting differently and then the NBA is profiting. So for starters, I think that the league minimum should be at least 100,000. I don't think that's much to ask for. 100,000. Like if you look at the NFL's league minimum, it's like 800K. The NBA is like 1.2 million. I just looked it up. 100K isn't really much, to be honest. I think that it should be at least enough to make a livable wage to where they don't have to worry about playing in Euro leagues and other different types of leagues, around the world during the off season. I think the off season should be a time where they rest. Allow them to rest, allow them to like kind of recoup, so that way they're not going to be injured going into the season. Like if they're nursing injuries, they shouldn't have to be worried about money at all. I know some people can make the case that they have husbands. Not everyone, and some of them are dating each other. For example. So I mean, like it's. Some of them are single. They're not all making a lot of money. Like people act like they're making so much money in sponsorships and all that stuff. Like I don't think it's much to ask for. Like if they at least have a league minimum of 100,000, I think that's reasonable. So that's really all I wanted to say is that the WNBA, I don't know what it is about women's sports here in America. We get so much hate for female athletes. I don't know where it comes from, but you don't really see that in other countries. You don't really see women's soccer players getting hated. You don't really see in England, they have the Wimbledon, right? You don't really see women's tennis players being hated. So something about American athletes, I don't know what it is, or American, the fan base. You see people comment on social media when there's a premier WNBA matchup coming up, and they're like, well, I guess I'll be getting tacos tonight. Like they're just commenting other stuff. Like it's just lame stuff, lame hate. I don't know where it comes from, but I just think we do have to do better as a country. Just with equality and people. Now, like I said, I'm not saying that WNBA players deserve NBA salaries right now. We're not there yet, But we could at least do better than what we're doing. But I'd love to get your thoughts in the comments below. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about WNBA players? Just let me know. What do you think? Do they deserve more money? I'd like to hear your a decent perspective, because I do like hearing different opinions. I really do. So I'd love to hear your opinion. If you agree with this, great. I'd love to hear that. If you disagree, I'd like to know why, and a decent explanation, not just because you know what I mean. Like give me a decent explanation, a decent argument, and catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.